Hello, welcome to Emerald Lake. It's Raven again. Alright, we are. Oh my gosh, I forgot to do it today. I gotta update my streaming info. I forgot to change it. That we're not doing. We're not doing origami. This is fairy tales time. This is story time. But yes, that's what we're doing. We're doing story time with Raven again. Put a couple things in. There. Okay. My voice is doing a bunch of weirdness. I'm sorry. I've got that updated over there. I got 4 subs gifted to me today. 3 of them are to streams I have never seen. It absolutely is possible they'll just send it out to people, but hey, look at you getting a bunch of gifts. That's fun. My freaking voice. Alright, we are reading stories again today. Fairy tales. I've got a few I'm prepared to be reading. And you can drop your redeems for in between the stories. I'll do them once I finish the story. I'm just getting rid of all the origami ones right now because I forgot to do that. Like I said, I didn't do the changeover. I'd been on a good streak of making sure to do those, but I forgot. Hello. I appreciate the first time chat, Coz. I'm mostly doing well. My voice is suddenly being less than cooperative, but everything else. Wow. I wouldn't know the rules at all. I thought it was that you could be not even watching the stream and get a sub. You passed 20k channel points. Oh my gosh, Tetra. Are you gonna lead all the redeems tonight or save them for later? I've got home runs from streams I am confident I was never in even for a second. There you go. It's not that it's hurtful, it's just that it's breaking. You know, when your voice cracks, it's just cracking a bunch. So I'm trying to hey, cooperate. It's working with the hydrate. Yeah, it's not that I'm not hydrated. It's just that it's see, I just drank and it did a weird I'm being silent thing. I swear, I have my voice. It's just not being cooperative and smooth today. I don't know, or at least right now. Yeah, I don't know what. I guess it must have been talk a lot, but the thing is, I usually talk a lot. Maybe I'm getting to that part in my streaming career where I'm repeatedly redeemed. Okay, you're right. Yeah, no, I did do that. So I probably should, I should probably get into something to help my voice like that. So an authors group today. That sounds awesome, Millennial Echo. Good for you. Oh, okay, no worry, Darkstorm. We'll see you in another stream. I hope you enjoy the VODs if you watch them. It mildly annoys me that the frogs are not at the same height. My frogs, why are you not sitting from the same spot? That's just what I get for doing those while I was still learning, but it's fine. Okay, so I guess I'm probably going to be clearing my voice, clearing my throat a whole bunch. Okay. Yeah, look at them. They're at different heights. Some of them start from different places. It's funny. Okay. Ooh, Vetster. Have fun making boba. Alright. Get those frogs out of my throat. Okay, I'll try. Okay, so our first story is called King Kojata. At least that's the assumption on pronunciation I've got. Sorry, give me 1 second. Aggressive, clearing throat and coughing sounds. I freed you from that. Um, okay, I was saying that we're reading King Kojata. Um, I think it's Polish originally. We'll see how true to um, the original stories it is. If you know the Polish story, but I don't. I googled it so that I could see how to pronounce it, and there wasn't a lot of examples for how to pronounce it, so I'm mostly guessing. Uh-oh, I can't hear myself very well. Alright, okay, sorry. Here we are, King Kojata. And we'll get into this story. There was once upon a time a king called Kojata, whose beard was so long that it reached below his knees. 3 years had passed since his marriage, and he lived very happily with his wife, but heaven granted him no heir, which grieved the king greatly. One day he set forth from his capital in order to make a journey through his kingdom. He traveled for nearly a year through the different parts of his territory, and then, having seen all there was to be seen, he set forth on his homeward way. As the day was very hot and sultry, it's a sultry day, he commanded his servants to pitch tents in the open field, and there await the cool of the evening. Suddenly a frightful thirst seized the king, and as he saw no water near, he mounted his horse and rode through the neighborhood looking for a spring. Okay. Before long he came to a well filled to the brim with water clear as crystal, and on the bosom of which was a golden jug. A golden jug was floating. King Kojata at once tried to seize the vessel, but though he endeavored to grasp it with his right hand and then with his left, the wretched thing always eluded his efforts and refused to let itself be caught. First with one hand and then with two did the king try to seize it, but like a fish the goblet always slipped through his fingers and bobbed to the ground, only to reappear at some other place and mock the king. "Plague on you," said King Kojata, "I can quench my thirst without you." And bending over the well, he lapped up the water so greedily that he plunged his face, beard and all, right into the crystal mirror. But when he had satisfied his thirst and wished to raise himself up, he couldn't lift his head, because someone held his beard fast in the water. "Who's there? Let me go," cried the King Kojata, but there was no answer. I mean, did he really say it or did he garble it? It was underwater. There's no answer. Only an awful face looked up from the bottom of the well with two great green eyes, glowing like emeralds. Ooh, my eyes be glowing like that. And a wide mouth reaching from ear to ear, showing 2 rows of gleaming white teeth. "Hello." And the king's beard was held not by mortal hands but by 2 claws. At last a hoarse voice sounded from the depths. This is sounding more and more like it's maybe me or one of my relatives. My voice is being hoarse and weird. Emerald glowing eyes. Oh my gosh. My smile, you looking at my avatar, isn't very big. It's a small face. And then 2 claws, so sounds like someone else that's a part another animal, something trickstery. Okay. Your trouble is all in vain, King Kojata. I will only let you go on one condition. Go on condition that you give me something you know nothing about and which you will find on your return home. I guess says the... Oh, at last a hoarse voice, yes. The king didn't pause to ponder long. For what, thought he, could be in my palace without my knowing about it? The thing is absurd. So he answered quickly, "Yes, I promise that you shall have it." It's a terrible idea, sir, but okay, here we go. The voice replied, "Very well, but it will go ill with you if you fail to keep your promise." Then the claws relaxed their hold, and the face disappeared in the depths. The king drew his chin out of the water and shook himself like a dog. Okay. Then he mounted his horse and rode thoughtfully home with his retinue. When they approached the capital, all the people came out to meet them with great joy and acclamation. And when the king reached his palace, the queen met him on the threshold. Beside her stood the prime minister, holding a little cradle in his hands, in which lay a newborn child as beautiful as the day. Yeah, but now he's handed over his kid that he didn't know about. This is what's going to happen. I had a feeling. Oh, something that you've never heard about, but is there. And, so often promise me your firstborn child. Those people. Anyway. Then the whole thing dawned on the king, and groaning deeply, he muttered to himself, "So this is what I did not know about." And the tears rolled down his cheeks. All the courtiers standing round were much amazed at the king's grief. "I'm sorry, I have a bunch of yawns. Wake up." Okay. They were much amazed at the king's grief, but no one dared to ask him the cause of it. He took the child in his arms and kissed it tenderly. Then, laying it in its cradle, he determined to control his emotion and began to reign again as before. Okay. Where do we get to giving him up? The secret of the king remained a secret though his grave, careworn expression escaped no one's notice. In the constant dread that his child would be taken from him, poor Kajata knew no rest, night or day. However, time went on and nothing happened. Days and months and years passed, and the prince grew up into a beautiful youth, and at last the king himself forgot all about the incident that happened so long ago. One day the prince went out hunting, and going in pursuit of a wild boar, he soon lost the other huntsmen and found himself quite alone in the middle of a dark wood. The trees grew so thick and near together that it was almost impossible to see through them. Almost impossible to see through them. Only straight in front of him lay a little patch of meadowland, overgrown with thistles and rank weeds, in the center of which a leafy lime tree reared itself. Suddenly a rustling sound was heard in the hollow of the tree, and an extraordinary old man with green eyes and chin crept out of it. Okay. He's also got a green chin. That's interesting. Alright. Oh, not too terrible. Terrible bot math. Oh, I'm sorry. A fine day, Prince Milan, he said. Okay, so I guess our prince is called Prince Milan. A fine day, Prince Milan, he said. You've kept me waiting a good number of years. It was high time for you to come and pay me a visit. Who are you, in the name of wonder? Demanded the astonished prince. You'll find out soon enough. But in the meantime, do as I bid you. Greet your father, King Kojata, from me, and don't forget to remind him of his debt. The time has long passed since it was due, but now he will have to pay it. Farewell for the present. We shall meet again." With these words the old man disappeared into the tree, and the prince returned home rather startled, and told his father all that he had seen and heard. The king grew as white as a sheet when he heard the prince's story, and said, "Woe is me, my son! The time has come when we must part." With a heavy heart he told the prince what had happened at the time of his birth. "Hi, Frank Source, I'm doing good. We're just in the middle of a story." And Turtle Boy seems to have had terrible luck with the love. Nani? Alright. Freaking yawning. Okay. So he tells him about what happened at his birth. "Don't worry or distress yourself, dear father," answered Prince Milan. "Things are never as bad as they look. Only give me a horse for my journey, and I wager you'll soon see me back again." The king gave him a beautiful charger with golden stirrups and a sword. The queen hung a little cross round his neck, and after much weeping and lamentation the prince bade them all farewell and set forth on his journey. He rode straight on for 2 days, and on the third he came to a lake as smooth as glass and as clear as crystal. Not a breath of wind moved. Why? Why am I yawning this much? This is making no sense. And of course that made my model twitch out. Okay. Honey, we'll get to Singing Frog as soon as the story is over. I'm excited. Okay. Not a breath of wind moved. You thought it was a sneeze? No. And I couldn't tell you why. Anyway, not a breath of wind moved, not a leaf stirred. All was silent as the grave. Only on the still bosom of the lake 30 ducks with brilliant plumage swam about in the water. Not far from the shore, Prince Milan noticed 30 little white garments lying on the grass, and dismounting from his horse, he crept down under the high bulrushes, took one of the garments and hid himself with it behind the bushes which grew round the lake. The ducks swam about all over the place, dived down into the depths and rose again, and glided through the waves. At last, tired of disporting themselves, they swam to the shore, and 29 of them put on their little white garments, and instantly turned into so many beautiful maidens. Oh, yay. Then they finished dressing and disappeared. Only the 30th little duck couldn't come to land. It swam about close to the shore, and giving out a piercing cry, it stretched its neck up timidly, gazed wildly around, and then dived under again. Prince Milan's heart was so moved with pity for the poor little creature that he came out from behind the bulrushes to see if he could be of any help. "Well, maybe if you didn't take the stuff that you took, dude." Aw, naughty. Yeah, it's not too pleased with you today. Not so nice. You got an 88. He could see if he could be of any help. As soon as the duck perceived him, it cried in a human voice, "Oh dear Prince Milan, for the love of heaven, give me back my garment, and I will be so grateful to you." So everybody knows this dude, I guess. Even all the duck ladies. The prince laid the little garment on the bank beside her and stepped back into the bushes. In a few seconds, a beautiful girl in a white robe stood before him, so fair and sweet and young that no pen could describe her. She gave the prince her hand and spoke. "Many thanks, Prince Milan, for your courtesy. I am the daughter of a wicked magician, and my name is Hyacinthia. My father has 30 young daughters and is a mighty ruler in the underworld with many castles and great riches. He has been expecting you for ages, but you need have no fear if you will only follow my advice. As soon as you come into the presence of my father, throw yourself at once on the ground and approach him on your knees. Don't mind if he stamps furiously with his feet and curses and swears. I'll attend to the rest. And in the meantime, he had better be off. What was the... Ah. Thank you for that, Cage Nightwind says. Apparently, with extended speaking, like on the phone or telling stories, your brain can get the message that you need to yawn, skipping the exact science to save message length. Maybe it's about oxygen, because I know that talking too much in shows, like when they're running out of oxygen, you need to stop talking, because that uses up more oxygen. And I know the biggest reason you yawn is because your brain is knowing that you need more oxygen, and so you'll yawn, and it takes in a big gulp of air. So there you go. But okay, I talk too much. That makes sense. Oh right, I need to learn how to take care of myself with how much I talk, I guess, now that I'm doing this. All right, so yeah, I'm learning. All right. Hey, Blazin' TV, thank you for joining us. It's more about sinuses and blood vessels in the face. Ooh, okay. Well, that would be cool to dive into at some point. For me, I'll look into it if I want to. Little pops as I moved around. Okay. Oh, thank you for the follow, Blazin' TV. Thank you. All right. Where were we? Come on. We'd better be off. That's it. With these words, the beautiful Hyacinthia stamped on the ground with her little foot, and the earth opened, and they both sank down into the underworld. Ooh. That's cool. Hope we have a great day so far. Thank you. Same to you, Blazin'. So far it's been going well. Yay, she came over with more sake. Okay, I hope you guys can hang out and chat. And if you guys want to just enjoy my stories, I mean, she had fun last time, right? Okay. I don't know why, but this conversation makes me want tea. I'm normally not a tea person, but it sounds good right now. Yawning and stories. It is a very tea thing. You just get cozy. Deadberg 477. Deadberg. Fun. But welcome. Thank you for the follow. All right. Oh yes, our lady is taking him down into the lower world. They said underworld before. The palace of the magician was all hewn out of a single carbuncle, lighting up the whole surrounding region, and Prince Milan walked into it gaily. The magician sat on a throne, a sparkling crown on his head. His eyes blazed like a green fire, and instead of hands he had claws. As soon as Prince Milan entered, he flung himself on his knees. The magician stamped loudly with his feet, glared frightfully out of his green eyes, and cursed so loudly that the whole underworld shook. But the prince, mindful of the counsel he had been given, wasn't the least afraid, and approached the throne still on his knees. At last the magician laughed aloud and said, "You rogue, you have been well advised to make me laugh. I won't be your enemy any more. Welcome to the underworld. All the same, for your delay in coming here, we must demand 3 services from you. For today you may go, but tomorrow I shall have something more to say to you." Ooh. just reading your messages, catching back up before I keep moving. Gotta be 3. Yeah, it's always one of those fun, odd numbers. The 3s, the 5s, usually the 3s. Okay. Then 2 servants led Prince Milan to a beautiful apartment, and he lay down fearlessly on the soft bed that had been prepared for him, and was soon fast asleep. Rarely the 7. Yes, sometimes the 7, yeah. Early the next morning, the magician sent for him and said, "Let's see now what you've learnt. In the first place, you must build me a palace tonight. The roof of the purest gold, the walls of marble, and the windows of crystal. All around you must lay out a beautiful garden with fish ponds and artistic waterfalls. If you do all this, I will reward you richly, but if you don't, you shall lose your head." "Oh, you wicked monster," thought Prince Milan. "You might as well have put me to death at once." Sadly, he returned to his room, and with bent head sat brooding over his cruel fate till evening. When it grew dark, a little bee flew by, and knocking at the window it said, "Open and let me in." Milan opened the window quickly, and as soon as the bee had entered, it changed into the beautiful Hyacinthia. "Good evening, Prince Milan. Why are you so sad?" "Hello, Lavos. Yeah, it's good for you. Like, drink where you're safe kind of thing. Not too glad she's looking after her. Glad you get to have some time with her. Okay. Now, don't be so foolish." "What? No, I skipped something. Okay. Why are you so sad?" the princess asks. "How can I help being sad? Your father threatens me with death, and I see myself already without a head." She says, "And what have you made up your mind to do?" "There's nothing to be done," he says. "And after all, I suppose one can only die once." Man has turned the coin, or coined the phrase, whatever the heck I'm saying. YODO. You only die once. Okay, buddy. Now don't be so foolish, my dear prince, but keep your spirits, for there is no need to despair. Go to bed, and when you wake up tomorrow morning, the palace will be finished. Then you must go all around it, giving a tap here and there on the walls to look as if you had just finished it." Okay. And so it turned out just as she had said. As soon as it was daylight, Prince Milan stepped out of his room and found a palace which was quite a work of art, down to the very smallest detail. The magician himself was not a little astonished at its beauty, and could hardly believe his eyes. "Well, you certainly are a splendid workman," he said to the prince. "I see you are very clever with your hands. Now I must see if you are equally accomplished with your head. I have 30 daughters in my house, all beautiful princesses. Tomorrow I will place the whole 30 in a row. You must walk past them 3 times, and the 3rd time you must show me which is my youngest daughter, Hyacinthia. If you don't guess rightly, you shall lose your head." Ho ho ho. Ooh, and bubble wrap soon, okay. "This time you've made a mistake," thought Prince Milan, and going to his room he sat down at the window. Just fancy my not recognizing the beautiful Hyacinthia. Why, that is the easiest thing in the world. "Not so easy as you think," cried the little bee who was flying past. "If I weren't to help you, you'd never guess. We are 30 sisters so exactly alike that our own father can hardly distinguish us apart." "Then what do I do?" asked Prince Milan. "Listen," answered Hyacinthia. "You will recognize me by a tiny fly I shall have on my left cheek, but be careful, for you might easily make a mistake." The next day the magician again commanded Prince Milan to be led before him. His daughters were arranged in a straight row in front of him, dressed exactly alike and with their eyes bent on the ground. Thank you for the follow, Withering Good. Withering God. Sorry, I misread that. But hey, fun name. Right, okay, so we gotta be careful. They're in a row, they're dressed exactly alike, and their eyes all on the ground. Now, you genius, said the magician, look at these beauties 3 times, and then tell us which is the Princess Hyacinthia. Prince Milan went past them and looked at them closely, but they were all so precisely alike that they looked like one face reflected in 30 mirrors, and the fly was nowhere to be seen. The second time he passed them he still saw nothing, but the third time he perceived a little fly stealing down one cheek, causing it to blush a faint pink. Then the prince seized the girl's hand and cried out, "This is the Princess Hyacinthia." You're right again, said the magician in amazement, but I've still another task for you to do. Before this candle, which I shall light, burns to the socket, you must have made me a pair of boots reaching to my knees. If they aren't finished in that time, off comes your head. The prince returned to his room in despair, and the Princess Hyacinthia came to him once more changed into the likeness of a bee, and asked him, "Why so sad, Prince Milan?" "Are you not getting the pattern here yet, Hyacinthia? And weren't you there when he told me the weird thing I don't know how to do?" How can I help being sad? Your father has set me this an impossible task. Your father has set me this time an impossible task. Before a candle which he has lit burns to the socket, I am to make a pair of boots. But what does a prince know of shoemaking? If I can't do it, I lose my head. She isn't too bright. She has no emotional intelligence. Every time she's like, "Why are you sad though?" I don't understand. She's not great at empathy. I don't know. Well, what is there to be done? Oh no, wait. I will lose my head. And what do you mean to do? Asked Hyacinthia. Well, what is there to be done? What he demands I can't and won't do, so he must just make an end of me. Not so, dearest. I love you dearly, and you shall marry me, and I'll either save your life or die with you. We must fly now as quickly as we can, for there is no way of escape. Oh, this time she has no plan. We're just gonna run. Ooh. You like that too, Natsu? Sometimes in emotional intelligence, it can be tough. Okay, we're gonna escape. With these words, she breathed on the window, and her breath froze on the pane. Then she led Milan out of the room with her, shut the door, and threw the key away. Hand in hand they hurried to the spot where they had descended into the lower world, and at last reached the banks of the lake. Prince Milan's charger was still grazing on the grass which grew near the water. The horse no sooner recognized his master than it neighed loudly with joy, and springing towards him, it stood as if rooted to the ground, while Prince Milan and Hyacinthia jumped on its back. Okay, so it sprang towards him, but it also stood as if rooted to the ground, so I'm a little confused. And they jumped on its back, then they sped onwards like an arrow from a bow. Hey, Ignis. This is a new version of that. Root purr. And bunches of Pringles. Barbecue flavor Pringles. There, yeah. In the meantime, the magician was waiting impatiently for the prince. Enraged by the delay, he sent his servants to fetch him, for the appointed time was past. The servants came... Oh. No! The servants came to the door. Still weird. And finding it locked, they knocked, but the frozen breath on the window replied in Prince Milan's voice, "I am coming directly." With this answer they returned to the magician, but when the prince still did not appear, after a time he sent his servants a second time to bring him. The frozen breath always gave the same answer, but the prince never came. At last the magician lost all patience and commanded the door to be burst open, but when his servants did so, they found the room empty, and the frozen breath laughed aloud. Out of his mind with rage, the magician ordered the prince to be pursued. Then a wild chase began. "I hear horses' hoofs behind us," said Hyacinthia to the prince. Milan sprang from the saddle, put his ear to the ground, and listened. "Yes," he answered, "they are pursuing us, and are quite close." "Then no time must be lost," said Hyacinthia, and she immediately turned herself into a river. "How? What?" "Prince Milan into an iron bridge, and the charger into a blackbird. Oh, okay, so she is the river, he is the bridge, and the horse is a bird. Behind the bridge, the road branched off into 3 ways." "You mean before the King Bridge?" "I don't know." Ah. This is a goofy story. Not a one of these is really reasonable, exactly. All the fairy tales are a little bit goofy. I hate when my friends do that. Turn into rivers, that is. And turn me into a bridge as well. Yeah, okay. That's confusing to think about. It is. It is. It's so odd, but okay. They're all odd. Oh, and Big Bolas, this is a goofy. I just realized that that's your first message, so thank you for joining us. This is a heck of a time. Like paying taxes or something. It is the time of year. I mean, we could, but not currently. What we're doing fairy tales. If they end up, I'm reading them blindly, so if they end up being realistic, I mean, we could do that. But okay. Oh, the magician's servants hurried after the fresh tracks, but when they came to the bridge, they stood, not knowing which road to take, as the footprints stopped suddenly. I wonder why. And there were 3 paths for them to choose from. In fear and trembling, they returned to tell the magician what had happened. Okay. He flew into a dreadful rage when he saw them, and screamed out, "Oh, you fools! The river and bridge were they! Go back and bring them to me at once, or it will be the worse for you." Oh no, I turned them into a bridge again. What do I do? It's where whoa. So Turtle Boy and Cage Nightwind are our river and bridge people, I guess. Okay. Then the pursuit began afresh. So I guess as soon as they left, they would have turned back into people and such. "I hear horses' hooves," sighed Hyacinthia. The prince dismounted and put his ear to the ground. "They are hurrying after us, and are already quite near." In a moment the Princess Hyacinthia had changed herself, the prince, and his charger into a thick wood where 1,000 paths and roads crossed over each other. Their pursuers entered the forest, but searched in vain for the Prince Milan and his bride. At last they found themselves back at the same spot they had started from, and in despair they returned once more with empty hands to the magician. "Then I'll go after the wretches myself," he shouted. "Bring a horse at once. They shan't escape me." Once more, the beautiful Hyacinthia murmured, "I hear horses' hoofs, quite near," and the prince answered, "They are pursuing us hotly, and are quite close. We are lost now, for that is my father himself. But at the first church we come to, his power ceases. He may chase us no further. Hand me your cross." So I guess he's holding a cross. This could have started with running away, if that was the plan. Yeah, I guess. Maybe, well, I don't know if she knew what the challenges were going to be. Um, or maybe she was like, I'll help him out with the first one and then he'll get the next one. And then when he was like, no, I physically can't do it, she's like, oh, yeah. But I'm done solving your problems for you, so I guess we'll run. Or, darn, I also, in this particular case, don't know how to do shoes. I don't know. It's an interesting reason when she's like, okay, hello, yeah, I'll help you out with this, versus, yeah, he's got that cross his mom gave him. Is that something that happened? Did I miss that? That sounds very familiar. It does seem like she kept thinking he'd figure it out. Yeah. Power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. Um. Hello, Tentacola. When he said on it, there you go. Fetster's paying better attention than I am. Okay, give me your cross, right? Hand me your cross. Prince Milan loosened from his neck the little gold cross his mother had given him, and as soon as Hyacinthia grasped it, she changed herself into a church. Ooh, does that still work then if it's not like a normal church? But okay. Milan into a monk, and the horse into a belfry. They had hardly done this when the magician and his servants rode up. Did you see no one pass by on horseback, Reverend Father? He asked the monk. Prince Milan and Princess Hyacinthia have just gone on this minute. They stopped for a few minutes in the church to say their prayers and bade me light his wax candle for you and give you their love. Good thinking on your feet, monk, aka Milan man. Rolls up sleeves, hold my cross. But okay. I'd like to wring their necks, said the magician, and he made all haste home, where he had every one of his servants beaten within an inch of their lives. Ugh. But all right. Prince Milan rode on slowly with his bride without fearing any further pursuit. The sun was just setting, and its last rays lit up a large city they were approaching. I thought I had suppressed that yawn, but no, I did not. Rode on slowly. Last rays lit up a large city they were approaching. Prince Milan was suddenly seized with an ardent desire to enter the town. Oh, my beloved, implored Hyacinthia, please don't go, for I am frightened and fear some evil. What are you afraid of? Asked the prince. We'll only go and look at what's to be seen in the town for about an hour, and then we'll continue on our journey to my father's kingdom. Sorry, Natsu. Contagious yawns. The town is easy to get into, but more difficult to get out of, sighed Hyacinthia. But let it be as you wish. Go, and I will await you here. But I will first change myself into a white milestone. Only I pray you be very careful. The king and queen of the town will come out to meet you, leading a little child with them. Whatever you do, don't kiss the child, or you will forget me and all that has happened to us. I will wait for you here for 3 days. Who's gonna guess that he gonna fucking kiss the child and forget her? Because like that's all that's gonna happen. They can't have said it and then it not happen. Kiss Frau. Boy, here we go. The prince hurried into the town, but Hyacinthia remained behind disguised as a white milestone on the road. 99% chance. Oh yeah. It's a little specific to not occur. Yeah. You're right. White milestone. The first day passed, and and then the second, and the third also, but Prince Milan did not return, for he had not taken Hyacinthia's advice. There you go. He will kiss the child. He will kiss the child. She is out cold. Of course she is, Natsu. Okay. Yes. there's a kid. When you greet the king and queen, he's gonna kiss the child. Hyacinthia said, "Don't kiss the child when you meet them," but yeah, he did. Because why else would she say that? And of course, they never listen. Here we go. Don't do this, or otherwise bad things will happen. Does exactly this. Yeah, fairy tale logic. Okay, so he had not taken his advice. The king and queen came out to meet him as she had said, leading with them a lovely fair-haired little girl whose eyes shone like two clear stars. The child at once caressed the prince, who, carried away by its beauty, bent down and kissed it on the cheek. From that moment his memory became a blank, and he forgot all about the beautiful Hyacinthia. Thanks for the follow, Big Bolas. We just met a new goal. 325. Ooh. We're just keep collecting those followers. It's great. I'm gonna adjust my mic and everything. Hold on. No one made a posture check redeem, but this is what I'm doing. Thanks, Nani. Boop. You did not need to do that, but thank you. Okay. Stretch? Okay, we'll take an extra second. Oh no, the model's running away. And hydrate, okay. Woohoo. She headbutted me. I'm sorry. Yeah, she does this. She'll just like randomly freak out when I stretch. Like, oh no, movement. Sorry, Nani. Alright, okay, so the prince was a dumbass. Okay, here we go. From that moment he became a blank. He forgot all about the beautiful Hyacinthia. When the prince did not return, poor Hyacinthia wept bitterly, and changing herself from a milestone into a little blue field flower, she said, "I will grow here on the wayside till some passer-by tramples me underfoot." And one of her tears remained as a dewdrop and sparkled on the little blue flower. Aww. Now, now it happened shortly after this that an old man passed by, and seeing the flower he was delighted with its beauty. He pulled it up carefully by the roots and carried it home. Here he planted it in a pot and watered and tended the little plant carefully. Sorry. Watered the plant carefully. I remember that word. Thank you for the follow, UFO Huncho. You just put her to bed? Good. Okay. Oh, and now the most extraordinary thing happened, for from this moment everything in the old man's house was changed. When he awoke in the morning, he always found his room tidied and put into such beautiful order that not a speck of dust was to be found anywhere. And when he came home at midday, he found a table laid out with the most dainty food, and he had only to sit down and enjoy himself to his heart's content. At first he was so surprised he didn't know what to think, but after a time he grew a little uncomfortable and went to an old witch to ask for advice. Everything's a little weirdly good. I don't know what's happening. Why is everything just magic? All night the witch said, "Get up before the cock crows and watch carefully till you see something move, and then throw this cloth quickly over it and you'll see what will happen." There you go. Don't question it, just enjoy it. Well, I have a feeling that because he questions it, a happier ending for everybody happens, but we'll see. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have. I'd be like, oh, heck yeah, okay, well, if this is how this works now, alright. All night the old man never closed an eye. When the first ray of light entered the room, he noticed that the little blue flower began to tremble, and at last it rose out of the pot and flew about the room, put everything in order, swept away the dust, and lit the fire. You could have done that before seeing the witch. You could have done the stay up thing, you know? Um, all big boulders, you know what I mean. Um, and lit the fire. In great haste, the old man sprang from his bed and covered the flower with a cloth the old witch had given him, and in a moment the beautiful Princess Hyacinthia stood before him. No more chores sounds good to me, heckin' yes. What have you done? She cried. Why have you called me back to life? For I have no desire to live since my bridegroom, the beautiful Prince Milan, has deserted me. Prince Milan is just going to be married, replied the old man. Everything is being got ready for the feast, and all the invited guests are flocking to the palace from all sides. Frickin' heck. So when they said child, I always assumed that it was like, yeah, a little kid. But now I guess it's a frickin' young girl, and he just like cheated on the frickin'. Oh my gosh. Okay, but everybody's coming to the palace. We better hurry. The beautiful Hyacinthia cried bitterly when she heard this. Then she dried her tears and went into the town dressed as a peasant woman. She went straight to the king's kitchen, where the white-aproned cooks were running about in great confusion. The princess went up to the head cook and said, Dear cook, please listen to my request, and let me make a wedding cake for Prince Milan. And I'm like, as confused as they were probably like, yes, oh, good, you take that job, I got the other things. The busy cook was just going to refuse her demand and order her out of the kitchen, but the words died on his lips when he turned and beheld the beautiful Hyacinthia. Ooh. And he answered politely, You have just come in the nick of time, fair maiden. Bake your cake, and I will myself lay it before Prince Milan. Well then, why did she need to be a pretty lady for you to say yes? Frickin' weird. The cake was soon made. The invited guests were already thronging round the table when the head cook entered the room, bearing a beautiful wedding cake on a silver dish, and laid it before Prince Milan. The guests were all lost in admiration, for the cake was quite a work of art. Prince Milan at once proceeded to cut it open, when to his surprise 2 white doves sprang out of it, and one of them said to the other, My dear mate, do not fly away and leave me and forget me, as Prince Milan forgot his beloved Hyacinthia. Milan sighed deeply when he heard what the little dove said. He jumped up suddenly from the table, and ran out the door, where he found the beautiful Hyacinthia waiting for him. Outside stood his faithful charger pawing the ground. Without pausing for a moment, Milan and Hyacinthia mounted him and galloped as fast as they could into the country of King Kajata. The king and queen received them with such joy and gladness as had never been heard of before, and they all lived happily for the rest of their lives. The end. The amount of vague details in this story hurts my head. That's these fairy tales for you, though, really. Poison it. Ooh. That would be, other fairy people. They would have done it. You just know. Not our girl Hyacinthia, I guess. But that's the end of that story. Oh boy. I'm just thinking, those freaking people of that kingdom, they were like, oh, the king and queen just met this like guy. He looks pretty rich. He looks like a prince, because that's usually how that goes. But they're like, they just met this guy that was in town, and the dude greeted them, and then immediately like all of his brain left him. Freaking weird. That's a crazy story, right? And everybody's like, oh yeah, that's pretty crazy. Well, get this, it got crazier. A little while later, he's marrying that little girl, the princess. I don't know how old she is, but it's just a little bit like. So they're like, I guess this amnesiac just came into town, and now he's gonna marry our princess. Oh, that's cool. I guess we better go to that. And then somebody else, another check-in on the story. Guess what happened at the wedding? These doves broke out of the cake, calling him out on some shit, and then he just ran away, and no one knows where he went. He just left. Okay, I guess he remembered things, probably. Interesting. Silly prince never learned, don't betray fae or dryads or forest folk of any sort. It is a good lesson. um, I'm just, yeah. The other people theoretically in the story drive me like, what? How must their life have gone? But also, why is kissing this girl's cheek gonna remove his memory? What does that? Did they do it on purpose? How does that work? We know nothing. Oh well. It's it's too late now. More throat clearing, that's not enough. And of course, the model freaks out. Why does that erase his memory? How does the other lady know it will do that? I guess Fairy Lady just knew things, but yeah, why does it do that? Women are poison, confirmed? Ha ha, nani, ha ha. So many questions. It was probably a curse from her for betrayal more than the princess's bidding. Um, I thought at first when I was reading that it was like the magician, evil dad guy that did it, or maybe it's a trap. This particular kingdom that they were. If you kiss her cheek, you'll forget everything, maybe, and so then you're stuck in the town, or someone else has a grudge. I didn't think that it was the Hyacinthia who made it happen. I don't know why she would, but I guess it would be an interesting test. But then if that was the test, she probably would have been happy to just leave him. Oh, he failed. Whatever. But instead, she was sad and then eventually went back to bug him. Oh well. Okay, so we have some triggers to redeem. Starting with the singing frog, right? Okay. Oh, and scissor snip snap to the list. We got a whole list ready to go. Might be a while before we get to another story. Sorry. There was frog. Mm-hmm. Oh well. Mm-hmm. My mic got spun. New to the chat and new to the singing frog. There you go. That's what that sounds like. Bubble wrap pops is next. Okay. Thank you for the follow, Darth Partyman. Where's my freaking there? Thank you for the follow. Okay, go on. thank you for the follow, Busky. Thank you. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you, Sergio Cons. Sergio Cons. Thank you for that. Thanks for follow, Great Atlas. Thanks for the follow, Sergio Cons. Thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, Fetster's here. So I guess it's pre-approved. Alright, I think this little sheet is all dead. We killed it off. Alright, that was bubble wrap. Alright, it's keys. And I've been given the go-ahead to wait on the scissor snips, so I think I will wait on card dealing as well, Natsu, if that's okay. We'll go to the next story after the keys, and then I'll do those in the next break. Or tell me if you want me to do the card dealing before the next break, because I can do that too. Let me know. But here's keys. We're doing keys. Ooh, thank you for the follow, Schmeety. Okay, thanks, Natsu. Alright, here's the keys. And that's keys. Thank you, Turtle Boy, that you like those. Um, I'm glad. It was so funny when I first put them on that I was like, I think this is a sound that people would like. I'm not trying to do the big, aggressive, jangly key bit, but like kind of, yeah, like the wind chimes people have said. I like them. Thank you for the follow, Vekun. I'm not sure if I say that. Vekun? Vekun? I don't know. Um, and humming Tetra. We're gonna do the humming after the next story, I think. Yep. Okay. One Vekun, roughly. Cool. Um, yes. Do 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 do. Gonna change that. And then the next story. What was it gonna do? The next story is The Enchanted Snake. That's it. What? That's not how snake is spelled. And of course I put the wrong. There we go. Alright. Boop. That's that. Yeah. We will do those three as of yet redeemed, unredeemed triggers soon. I should fix my posture. We're gonna do that. Just a moment. Bear with me. I'm being tall again. I need to change that. Alright. I can make me a little bit shorter now. There. You can see me better. And my tall. Okay. Mm-hmm. The enchanted snake. Oh, why did that move like that? Okay. There was once upon a time a poor woman who would have given all she possessed for a child, but she hadn't one. Thank you for the follow. I'm guessing Savvy 2? Savvy Talks? But thank you for the follow. Um, there once upon a time a poor woman who would have given all she possessed for a child, but she hadn't one. Huh? Whoa. The model became so tiny. Now it happened that one day her husband went to the wood to collect brushwood, and when he had brought it home, he discovered a pretty little snake among the twigs. When Sabatella, for that was the name of the peasant's wife, saw the little beast, she sighed deeply and said, "Even the snakes have their brood. I alone am unfortunate and have no children." No sooner had she said those words than, to her intense surprise, the little snake looked up into her face and spoke. "Since you have no children, be a mother to me instead, and I promise you will never repent it, for I will love you as if I were your own son." At first Sabatella was frightened to death at hearing a snake speak, but plucking up her courage, she replied, "Sorry. If it weren't for any other reason than your kindly thought, I would agree to what you say, and I will love you and look after you like a mother." So she gave the snake a little hole in the house for its bed, fed it with all the nicest food she can think of, and seemed as if she never could show it enough kindness. Day by day it grew bigger and fatter, and at last one morning it said to Cola Matheo, the peasant, whom it always regarded as its father. His name is Cola Matheo, I think. It's a funky name. "Hello, Zach. Oh, you're just giving me the follow. Thank you." The peasant who he always regarded as a father. "Dear Papa, I am now of a suitable age and wish to marry." "I'm quite agreeable," answered Matteo. Or maybe it's Matteo. Let's say it's Matteo. Cola Matteo. Or Matteo for short, I guess. "I'm quite agreeable," answered Matteo, "and I'll do my best to find another snake like yourself and arrange a match between you." "Why, if you do that," replied the snake, "we shall be no better than the vipers and reptiles, and that's not what I want at all. No, I'd much prefer to marry the king's daughter." Not just a human. The frickin' king's daughter. That's a big step up, Mr. Snake Dude. All right. Therefore, I pray you go without further delay and demand an audience of the king, and tell him a snake wishes to marry his daughter. Crummy water redeem posture check. Thank you for that. I am slowly adjusting bit by bit. You can hear my headphones and chairs squeaking. Ugh. Maybe that will be better. Okay. I wish to marry his daughter. Cola Matteo, who was rather a simpleton, oh no, went as he was desired to the king. Like that will go well? Yeah. And now we know he's a simpleton, so it really won't go well, you just know it. Having obtained an audience, he said, "Your Majesty, I have often heard that people lose nothing by asking, so I have come to inform you that a snake wants to marry your daughter, and I'd be glad to know if you are willing to mate a dove with a serpent." Is she literally a dove, or just that's what you're calling it? Natsu, do I have any VODs? Yes, of course. I keep the most recent ones up on Twitch, but I also make sure I put them all up on YouTube. So there you go. There you go. Yes. See? YouTube. dove with the serpent. That's where I was at. The king, who saw at once that the man was a fool, I mean, what he said was actually quite wise, but in this case, yeah, you don't ask somebody that's, especially in their time, a king, very likely to be randomly aggressive and just kill you or enslave you or something at the smallest misinterpretation. So, yeah, maybe not wise, but he is wise in that you lose nothing by asking. Thank you, Raven Jet. Well, that was Fetster and my robot, but yes. Okay. Saw that the man was a fool, said, in order to get quit of him, go home and tell your friend the snake that if he can turn this palace into ivory, inlaid with gold and silver, before tomorrow at noon, I will let him marry my daughter. And with a hearty laugh, he dismissed the peasant. I'm still wondering, is the king's daughter a literal dove or a figurative dove? Because why did he say dove? I'm just curious. The day just started. It's 12:19. For you or for the story? Oh no, that's time here. Oh gosh, yes. Go, he laughs. Okay, when Cola Mateo brought this answer back to the snake, the little creature didn't seem the least put out, but said, tomorrow morning, before sunrise, you must go to the wood and gather a bunch of green herbs, and then rub the threshold of the palace with them, and you'll see what will happen. Well, if that's what's happening, then, buddy, like, your dad did that, not you. So does that mean your dad gets to marry the princess, maybe a dove, maybe a lady, or do you? Robin with best friend after work? Yeah, that's a good day. Military time, airport time, plenty of reasons to use the 24-hour clock. What the heck? Oh, yes. Okay, so he said go do that. Hardly had he... Oh, no, wait. See what will happen. Cola Mateo, who was, as I've said before, a great simpleton. Why do we need to continue to say he's an idiot? I don't get it. Made no reply, but before sunrise next morning, he went to the wood and gathered a bunch of St. John's wort and rosemary and such like herbs, and rubbed them, as he had been told, on the floor of the palace. Hardly had he done so than the walls immediately turned into ivory, so richly inlaid with gold and silver that they dazzled the eyes of all beholders. The king, when he rose and saw the miracle that had been performed, was beside himself with amazement, and didn't know what in the world he was to do. Sorry. Oh, we've got lots in the chat. Can't shake it for 6 years now. Reminds me of the game demo. Midnight Ramen. Is that a thing? My work used it on the schedule sheets. Yep, that happens too. If he looks like an idiot, smells like an idiot, and acts like an idiot, he is an idiot, and we must be made to know, apparently. I understand my lieutenant. Yeah. Did you know he's an idiot? I've been told. What's the biggest fish that you caught? Huh? Interesting question for him. Don't fish, sorry, bud. Okay. Oh, if there's anything I learned from recent studies, that sudden magical palace is the quickest way to wow a king and get a princess to marry you. Yeah, that's been a theme actually in the last few. They collected the green fairy tale book, but it's like the fairy tale book of palaces randomly becoming randomly amazing palaces. it's fun. Biggest book you read? Oh, I mean, these are fun questions, Big Bull. You're very out of left field. It's interesting. Okay. I'm not exactly against it. I'm not kind of here for those kind of. And what is this? But all right. It's an amazing thing dazzled the eyes of all beholders. The king, when he rose and saw the miracle what had been performed, was beside himself with amazement, and didn't know what in the world he was to do. But when Colam Mateo came next day, and in the name of the snake demanded the hand of the princess, the king replied, "Don't be in such a hurry. If the snake really wants to marry my daughter, he must know some more things first. And one of these is to turn all the paths and walls of my garden. Oh, he must do some more things first. He must paths of my garden into pure gold before noon tomorrow." Why do we gotta have demanding the gold and such? The Bible is a long book. I will give you that. Have you actually read all of it? That's it, because like I said, it's a long book. Before noon tomorrow, when the snake was told of this new condition, he replied, "Tomorrow morning, early, you must go and collect all the odds and ends of rubbish you can in the streets, and then take them and throw them on the paths of the walls in the garden, and you'll see then if we won't make more than a match for the old king." So Cola Mateo rose at cock crow, took the large basket under his arm, and carefully collected all the broken fragments of pots and pans, and jugs and lamps, and other trash of that sort. No sooner had he scattered them over the paths and walls of the king's garden than they became one blaze of glittering gold, so that everyone's eyes were dazzled with the brilliancy, and everyone's soul was filled with wonder. The king, too, was amazed at the sight, but still he couldn't make up his mind to part with his daughter. So when Cola Mateo came to remind him of his promise, he replied, "I have still a third demand to make. If the snake can turn all the trees and fruit of my garden into precious stones, then I promise him my daughter in marriage." And how many times is he going to say that he will and then not actually do it? All right, Natsu, have a good night. Watch after the neighbor. Take care. Nani, if you need sleep, go to bed. And oh, new lore just dropped. Danish. Dang. Where's my Danish stories? Quick. We did The Little Mermaid a long time ago. Sorry. You finished the thing I told you. Now here's another thing first. Yes, always. Aw, well, thank you, Nani. It's also good if you fall asleep to my stories. That's fine too. You must do something else, of course. Again. When the peasant informed the snake what the king had said, he replied, "Tomorrow morning early you must go to the market and buy all the fruit you see there, and then sow all the stones and seeds in the palace garden, and, if I'm not mistaken, the king will be satisfied with the result." Cola Mateo rose at dawn, and taking a basket on his arm, he went to the market and bought all the pomegranates, apricots, cherries, and other fruit he could find there, and sowed the seeds and stones in the palace garden. In one moment the trees were all ablaze with rubies, emeralds, diamonds, and every other precious stone you can think of. Damn. Good, Nanny. Then go to sleep that way. Go to sleep. This time the king felt obliged to keep his promise, and calling his daughter to him, he said, "My dear Granonia," what a name, for that was the princess's name. "More as a joke than anything else, I demanded what seemed to be impossibilities from your bridegroom, but now that he has done all I required, I am bound to stick to my part of the bargain. Be a good child, and as you love me, do not force me to break my word, but give yourself up with as good grace as you can to a most unhappy fate." Damn, king. You're really just like, I'm sorry I failed you, but this is what it is. You gotta go. Oh, and she's on the same page. Do with me what you like, my lord and father, for your will is my law. Yikes. Glad I was not born in that time, of course. When the king heard this, he told Cola Mateo to bring the snake to the palace and said that he was prepared to receive the creature as his son-in-law. Sorry. Ooh. What did I miss? There was a bonk. Ah! Why did you bonk? Why did you bonk you? That's hurt. Where was I? Hydrate. Okay, thank you. I gotta do that. A sleep frog is in the list. He is to be made soon, I promise. I just don't know exactly when soon is. Oh yes, he's going to take in cage. Is anyone is that what you said? Anyone else? Do the math on that. Double check how old that is. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That'll tell you. Oh, there you go. Good night, Raven. Good night, Turtle Boy. I guess we'll hope. Okay. The snake arrived at court in a carriage made of gold and drawn by 6 white elephants. But wherever it appeared on the way, the people fled in terror at the sight of the fearful reptile. Oh no! When the snake reached the palace, all the courtiers shook and trembled with fear down to the very scullion, and the king and queen were in such a state of nervous collapse that they hid themselves in a faraway turret. Oh no! Ooh. Granonia alone kept her presence of mind, and although both her father and mother implored her to fly for her safe life, well, so maybe she is literally a dove. They told her to fly. She wouldn't move a step, saying, "I'm certainly not going to fly from the man you have chosen for my husband." Yeah. As soon as the snake saw Granonia, it wound its tail round her and kissed her. Oh. Then, leading her into a room, it shut the door. Ooh. And throwing off its skin, it changed. Oh, this is... Hey, 17-year-old, you might need to leave this story. I wasn't expecting this. Oh my gosh. Okay. As soon as the snake saw Granonia, it wound its tail around her and kissed her. Then, leading her into a room, it shut the door, and throwing off its skin, it changed into a beautiful young man with golden locks and flashing eyes, who embraced Granonia tenderly and said all sorts of pretty things to her. When the king saw the snake shut itself into a room with his daughter, he said to his wife, "Heaven be merciful for our child, for I fear it is all over with her now. This cursed snake has most likely swallowed her up." He told his wife, "Heaven, please be merciful with our child. The snake ate her." And he was, "I don't doubt it." I think he did. I think he ate her. Then they put their eyes to the keyhole. No, Mom, don't do it. To see what had happened. Their amazement knew no bounds when they saw a beautiful youth standing before their daughter with a snake skin lying on the floor beside him. In their excitement, they burst open... What? They burst open the door, and seizing the skin, they threw it into the fire. But no sooner had they done this, then the young man called out, "Oh, wretched people, what have you done?" And before they had time to look round, he had changed himself into a dove, and dashing against the window, he broke a pane of glass and flew away from their sight. Wow. Look at you guys. Um, it, oop, oop. The problem is that Mom and Dad totally cock-blocked her. Damn it. Mom. Yeah. Wow. And then he just ran, and he's the one that's a dove, I guess. But Granonia, oh, this is great. But Granonia, who in one and the same moment saw herself merry and sad, cheerful and despairing, rich and beggared, completely complained bitterly over this robbery of her happiness, this poisoning of her cup of joy, this unlucky it's just going to keep going, this sentence, this unlucky stroke of fortune, and laid all the blame on her parents, though they assured her that they had meant no harm. What were you doing? But the princess refused to be comforted, and at night, when all the inhabitants of the palace were asleep, she stole out by a back door disguised as a peasant woman, determined to seek for her lost happiness till she found it. When she got to the outskirts of the town, led by the light of the moon, she met a fox, who offered to accompany her, an offer which Granonia gladly accepted, saying, You are most heartily welcome, for I don't know my way at all about the neighborhood. I'm just reading this and I'm like, if it was written from Granonia's perspective, this would have been a modern, say, spicy novel. You just know it. Spicy fantasy novel right there. Girl power. Okay. This is the version of the story that we have. Oh well. Somebody, heck, I could, but somebody, let's write this story in that perspective. I'm gonna put a little note next to it that this needs rewrite. But okay. So they went off on their way together and came at last to a wood where, being tired with walking, they paused to rest under the shade of a tree, where a spring of water sported with the tender grass, refreshing it with its crystal spray. They laid themselves down on the green carpet and soon fell fast asleep, and did not awaken again till the sun was high in the heavens. They rose up and stood for some time listening to the birds singing, because Granonia delighted in their songs. When the fox perceived this, he said, If you only understood, as I do, what these little birds are saying, your pleasure would be even greater. Provoked by his word, for we all know that curiosity is as deeply inborn in every woman as even the love of talking. Some shade from this story, okay. There's a whole study that debunked that women talk too much. Thank you very much. But Granonia implored the fox to tell her what the birds had said. At first the wily fox refused to tell her what he had gathered from the conversation of the birds, but at last he gave way to her entreaties, and told her that they had spoken of the misfortunes of a beautiful young prince, whom a wicked enchantress had turned into a snake for the period of 7 years. At the end of this time he had fallen in love with a charming princess, but that when he had shut himself up into a room with her, and had thrown off his snakeskin, her parents had forced their way into the room and had burnt the skin, whereupon the prince, changed into the likeness of a dove, had broken a pane of glass in trying to fly out the window, and had wounded him so badly that the doctors despaired of his life. Oh no! Do you want me to link the study to you? I will. I will give you the science and the proof. Hi, Braddy. Hello. Okay. So our girl, Our sexy snake prince, that's now a bird, is now maybe dying. So we're worried. Granonia, when she learnt that they were talking of her lover, asked at once whose son he was. Oh, sorry, yes. Where is that? I can do that. There we go. What was I doing? Can't read a story without deaths. Hey, he might actually not die, but he's big. He's big injured. That's what matters. Okay. Um. Granonia, that's our princess lady. When she learnt that they were talking of her lover, at last, once whose son he was, asked at once whose son he was. What? Yes, that's the word. My brain. And if there was any hope of his recovery, to which the fox made answer that the birds had said he was the son of the king of Vallone Grosso, and that the only thing that could cure him was to rub the wounds on his head with the blood of the very birds who had told the tale. Oh, okay, maybe there are deaths. Why? What would have been the cure if they had never told the story? Thank you for the follow, Kitten Girl 2024. Ooh, fun name. I wow, look at that's cute. No worries. Look at all them cuties. I like it. Okay. So interesting. And whoever Vallone Grosso is, the king of Vallone Grosso. Never mind, that's a place. That's not a person. The only thing that could cure him was to rub the wound. Anyway. Then Granonia knelt down before the fox and begged him in her sweetest way to catch the birds for her and procure their blood, promising at the same time to reward him richly. All right. Oh, all right, said the fox. Only don't be in such a hurry. Let's wait till night when the little birds have gone to roost. Then I'll climb up and catch them all for you. So they passed the day, talking now of the beauty of the prince, now of the father of the princess, and then of the misfortune that had happened. At last the night arrived, and all the little birds were asleep high up on the branches of a big tree. The fox climbed up stealthily and caught the little creatures with his paws one after the other, and when he had killed them all, he put their blood into a little bottle which he wore at his side, and returned it to Granonia, who was beside herself with joy at the result of the fox's raid. But the fox said, "My dear daughter, your joy is in vain, because let me tell you, this blood is of no earthly use to you unless you add some of mine to it." And with those words he took to his heels. Wait, what? I'm very confused. Granonia, who saw her hopes dashed to the ground in this cruel way, had recourse to flattery and cunning, weapons which have often stood... Wait, what? Okay. This is another comment on women, I guess, in this moment. Granonia, who saw her hopes dashed to the ground in this cruel way, had recourse to flattery and cunning, weapons which have often stood the sex in good stead, and called out after the fox, "Father Fox, you would be quite right to save your skin, if in the first place I didn't feel I owed so much to you, and if, in the second, there weren't other foxes in the world. But as you know how grateful I feel to you, and as there are heaps of other foxes about, you can trust yourself to me. Don't behave like the cow that kicks the pail over after it has filled it with milk, but continue your journey with me, and when we get to the capital you can sell me to the king as a servant girl." Intriguing. It never entered the fox's head that even foxes can be outwitted. So after a bit he contested to go with her, but he hadn't gone far before the cunning girl seized a stick and gave him such a blow with it on the head that he dropped down dead on the spot. So, yeah, we have some death in this story. Then Granonia took some of his blood and poured it into her little bottle and went on her way as fast as she could to Valone Grosso. When she arrived there, she went straight to the royal palace and let the king be told she had come to cure the young prince. The king commanded her to be brought before him at once, and was much astonished when he saw that it was a girl who undertook to do what all the cleverest doctors of his kingdom had failed in. As an attempt hurts no one, he willingly consented that she should do what she could. So that paragraph reads as, girls can't do that. But hey, I guess since it won't hurt, we'll let her, but it won't work. Lovely. All I ask, said Granonia, is that, should I succeed in what you desire, you will give me your son in marriage. The king, who had given up all hopes of his son's recovery, replied, only restore him to life and health, and he shall be yours. It is only fair to give her a husband who gives me a son. And so they went into the prince's room. The moment Granonia had rubbed the blood on his wounds, the illness left him, and he was as sound and well as ever. When the king saw his son thus marvelously restored to life and health, he turned to him and said, my dear son, I thought of you as dead, and now, to my great joy and amazement, you are alive again. I promised this young woman that if she should cure you, to bestow your hand and heart on her, and seeing that heaven has been gracious, you must fulfill the promise I made her, for gratitude alone forces me to pay this debt. But the prince answered, my lord and father, I would that my will were as free as my love for you is great, but as I have plighted my word to another maiden, you will see yourself, and so will this young woman, that I cannot go back from my word and be faithless to her whom I love. When Granonia heard these words, and saw how deeply rooted the prince's love for her was, she felt very happy, and blushing rosy red, she said, but should I get the other lady to give up her rights, would you then consent to marry me? Far be it from me, replied the prince, to banish the beautiful picture of my love from my heart. Whatever she may say, my heart and desire will remain the same, and though I were to lose my life for it, I couldn't consent to this exchange. Granonia could keep silence no longer, and throwing off her peasant's disguise, she discovered herself to the prince, who was nearly beside himself with joy when he recognized his fair lady love. He then told his father at once who she was, and what she had done and suffered for his sake. Suffered for his sake. Sorry, she just got cock-blocked is all. Then they invited the king and queen of Starza Longa to their court. I guess that's the princess's parents. And had a great wedding feast, and proved once more that there is no better seasoning for the joys of true love than a few pangs of grief. What happened to the couple that was the parents at the start? The couple that helped raise the snake? What happened to them? Did they get invited? Include your adoptive parents, dang it. But okay. The end. What a story. Yeah, could use a bit of a rewriting, but otherwise, fun story. Alright, that goes away. And what happened there? Alright. We are moving on to scissor snips, and then card dealing and humming. We are doing redeems time. Alright. Oh, why is this not showing? There we go. Alrighty. Here we are with the scissors. that was scissor snips. And I'll do card dealing next, but that means just a little bit of shuffling things around. So hold on. It'll take a minute. Ooh, thank you for the follow. Durgan boy. Ooh. And that has been card dealing. Woohoo. Put things back. Alright. Okay. And so now is humming. Whoop whoop, humming. There we go. Yeah, I don't always do that one, but we'll do that one for sure. Okay. Doblo, Doblowo, Doblowo. That's it. Sorry. Oh my gosh, my voice is. Fetster, thank you. I mean, full volume is usually very, very loud. So hopefully not full volume on this stream. And usually, what some singers might tell you is that it's easier to go loud than quiet for a lot of things. So I specifically I like the lower songs because your voice naturally isn't very loud when you sing lower. You get quieter when you reach your too low to go. So yeah, very cool. Oh, thank you. Well, I'm trying. It's something that I like to do. Something I like to try and get better at. Vocal performances in general. Oh my gosh. I have no control and no range right now, but yeah, thank you. Okay, so the tin in the plastic jar is next now. Thank you for all those nice things, folks. It's very nice of you. Let's grab that. Of course, it's at the back of the freaking shelf. Hold on. And we roll. Hey, I'm here to wish you to have fun and an awesome stream. Thank you, Dumda. Hey, gosh. Okay, here is tin and plastic jar. The way I do that, I'm just commenting. It sounds like just an awful song that I'm playing. All my greatest hits. Here we have tin in a plastic jar. And then it is just the sound. Imagine it on a big stage. All the good cuddles and oh, thank you, Demda. Okay, I'll stop being weird. Here we go. Okay, that was the tin in the plastic jar. Yeah, it sounds like what the heck kind of trigger is that? But it's a lot like my keys. Kind of funny name, but good little tinkling sounds. It's fun. So thank you for joining us, Dun Dun. That you're headed out. That's all good. We'll see you another time. Oh, I'm gonna be running an ad. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for the follow, Ezra JM. Thank you. Oh, you go to sleep, Millennial Echo. We'll see you another time. I'm gonna run this ad, and we're gonna keep marching on for the stream. Here we go. For those of you not listening to ads, because heck ads, yes. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a second. Little built-in break. Ooh. Hydrate. Haha. Oh, set up for the next story. That's what I can do. That's the thing. Alright. I know what the next story is. I can do that. I can do that. Okay. Interesting title to this next story. It's funky, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, that's not supposed to say turn triggered. That should say now reading. Haha, there you go. Alright, oof. Okay, so you guys should be free from the ads now. We're moving on to our next story. It's called The Biter Bit, I think. So here we go with this one. It's looking like it'll be a lot of chat and maybe a bit of repetition to deal with, but here we go. Once upon a time, there lived a man called Simon, who was very rich, but at the same time as stingy and miserly as he could be. He had a housekeeper called Nina, a clever, capable woman, and as she did her work carefully and conscientiously, her master had the greatest respect for her. In his young days, Simon had been one of the gayest and most active youths of the neighborhood, but as he grew old and stiff, he found it very difficult to walk, and his faithful servant urged him to get a horse so as to save his poor old bones. At last Simon gave way to the request and persuasive eloquence of his housekeeper, and betook himself one day to the market, where he had seen a mule, which he thought would just suit him, and which he bought for 7 gold pieces. Now it happened that there were 3 merry rascals hanging about the marketplace, who much preferred living on other people's goods to working for their own living. As soon as they saw that Simon had bought a mule, one of them said to his 2 boon companions, "My friends, this mule must be ours before we are many hours older." "But how shall we manage it?" asked one of them. "We must all 3 station ourselves at different intervals along the old man's homeward way, and must each in his turn declare that the mule he has bought is a donkey. If we only stick to it, you'll see the mule will soon be ours." This proposal quite satisfied the others, and they all separated as if they had agreed. Now when Simon came by, the first rogue said to him, "God bless you, my fine gentleman." "Thanks for your courtesy," replied Simon. "Where have you been?" asked the thief. "To the market," was the reply. "And what did you buy there?" continued the rogue. "This mule." "Which mule?" "The one I'm sitting upon, to be sure," replied Simon. "Are you in earnest or only joking?" "What do you mean?" "Because it seems to me you've got hold of a donkey and not a mule." "A donkey? Rubbish!" screamed Simon, and without another word he rode on his way. After a few hundred yards, he met the second confederate, who addressed him, Good day, dear sir. Where are you coming from? From the market, answered Simon. Did things go pretty cheap? Asked the other. I should just think so, said the Simon. Said the brain. I should just think so, said Simon. And did you make any good bargain yourself? I bought this mule on which you see me. Is it possible that you really bought that beast for a mule? Why, certainly. But good heavens, it's nothing but a donkey. As for words, yep, that exactly. A donkey, repeated Simon. You don't mean to say so. If a single other person tells me that, I'll make him a present of the wretched animal. With these words he continued his way, and very soon he met the third knave, who said to him, God bless you, sir. Are you by any chance coming from the market? Yes, I am, replied Simon. And what bargain did you drive there? asked the cunning fellow. I bought this mule on which I am riding. A mule? Are you speaking seriously, or do you wish to make a fool of me? I'm speaking in sober earnest, said Simon. It wouldn't occur to me to make a joke of it. Oh, my poor friend, cried the rascal. Don't you see that is a donkey and not a mule? You have been taken in by some wretched cheats. You are the third person in the last 2 hours who has told me the same thing, said Simon, but I couldn't believe it. And dismounting from the mule, he spoke. Keep the animal. I make you a present of it. The rascal took the beast, thanked him kindly, and rode on to join his comrades, while Simon continued his journey on foot. As soon as the old man got home, he told his housekeeper that he had bought a beast under the belief that it was a mule, but that it had turned out to be a donkey. At least, so he had been assured by several people he had met on the road, and that in disgust he had at last given it away. Oh, you simpleton, cried Nina. Didn't you see that they were only playing you a trick? Really, I thought you'd have had more gumption than that. They wouldn't have taken me in that way. Never mind, replied Simon. Playing you a trick? Yeah. Funny phrases every time. Never mind, replied Simon. I'll play them one worth 2 of that, for depend upon it, they won't be contented with having got the donkey out of me, but they'll try by some new dodge to get something more, or I'm much mistaken. Now there lived in the village, not far from Simon's house, a peasant who had 2 goats, so alike in every respect that it was impossible to distinguish one from the other. Simon bought them both, paid as small a price as he could for them, and leading them home with him, he told Nina to prepare a good meal, as he was going to invite some friends to dinner. He ordered her to roast some veal and to boil a pair of chickens, and gave her some herbs to make a good savory, and told her to bake the best tart she could make. I've never heard savory as a noun instead of adjective right there. Or not adjective. Yes, adjective, brain. Then he took one of the goats and tied it to a post in the courtyard and gave it some grass to eat. But he bound a cord round the neck of the other and led it to the market. Hardly had he arrived there than the 3 gentlemen who had got his mule perceived him, and coming up to him said, Welcome, Mr. Simon, what brings you here? Are you on the lookout for a bargain? I've come to get some provisions, he answered, because some friends are coming to dine with me today, and it would give me much pleasure if you were to honor me with your company also. The accomplices willingly accepted his invitation, and after Simon had made all his purchases, he tied them on to the goat's back and said to it, in the presence of the 3 cheats, Go home now and tell Nina to roast the veal and boil the chickens, and tell her to prepare savory with herbs, and to bake the best tart she can make. Have you followed me? Then go, and heaven's blessing go with you. Ooh, looked it up. Apparently, savory is a noun in British dialect, and if Google can be trusted, it's essentially an appetizer or snack. Oh, thank you, Cage. Answering all of my random questions. You are the Google. As soon as it felt itself free, the laden goat trotted off as quickly as it could, and to this day nobody knows what became of it. But Simon, after wandering about the market for some time with his three friends and some others he had picked up, returned home to his house. When he and his guests entered the courtyard, they noticed the goat tied to the post, quietly chewing the cud. They were not a little astonished at this, which, as we read in the last one, that meant that they were very astonished. For of course they thought it was the same goat that Simon had sent home laden with provisions. As soon as they reached the house, Mr. Simon said to his housekeeper, "Well, Nina, have you done what I told the goat to tell you to do?" The artful woman, who at once understood her master, answered, "Certainly I have. The veal is roasted and the chickens boiled." "That's all right," said Simon. If he's such a stingy guy, he paid for that food and that goat, and again, no one's ever found them, so I imagine someone came, or no one knows what happened. Someone came across that stuff and took advantage. So he basically did some charity, gave that meat and animal out into the world. Just kind of funny to think. Not too stingy then. When the three rogues saw the cooked meats and the tart in the oven and heard Nina's words, they were nearly besides themselves with amazement, and began to consult at once how they were to get the goat into their own possession. At last, toward the end of the meal, having sought in vain for some cunning dodge to get the goat away from Mr. Simon, one of them said to him, "My worthy host, you must sell your goat to us." Just going straight at the hard sell, okay. Simon replied that he was most unwilling to part with the creature, as no amount of money would make up to him for its loss. Still, they were quite set on it. He would let them have the goat for 50 gold pieces. The knaves, who thought they were doing a capital piece of business, paid down the 50 gold pieces at once, and left the house quite happily, leading the goat with them. When they got home, they said to their wives, "You needn't begin to cook the dinner tomorrow till we send the provisions home." The following day they went to the market and bought chickens and other eatables, and after they had packed them on the back of the goat, which they had brought with them, they told it all the dishes they wished their wives to prepare. As soon as the goat felt itself free, it ran as quickly as it could, and was very soon lost to sight, and as far as I know, was never heard of again. When the dinner hour approached, all three went home and asked their wives if the goat had returned with the necessary provisions, and had told them that they wished prepared for the meal. "Oh, you fools and blockheads," cried their wives. "How could you ever believe for a moment that a goat would do the work of a servant maid? You have been finely deceived for once in a way. Of course, if you are always taking in other people, your turn to be taken in comes too, and this time you've been made to look pretty foolish." Oops, take that. When the three comrades saw that Mr. Simon had got the better of them, and done them out of 50 gold pieces. Oh, sorry. They flew into such a rage that they made up their minds to kill him, and seizing their weapons for this purpose, went to his house. Oh boy. But the sly old man, who was terrified for his life, that the three rogues might do him some harm, was on guard, and said to his housekeeper, "Nina, take this bladder, which is filled with blood, and hide it under your cloak. Then when these thieves come, I'll lay all the blame on you, and will pretend to be so angry with you that I will run at you with my knife, and pierce the bladder with it, and then you must fall on the ground as if you were dead, and leave the rest to me." Oh, welcome back, Natsu. Hardly had Simon said these words when the three rogues appeared and fell on him to kill him. "My friends," called out Simon to them, "what do you accuse me of? I am in no way to blame. Perhaps my housekeeper has done you some injury of which I know nothing." And with these words he turned on Nina with his knife and stuck it right into her, so that he pierced the bladder filled with blood. Instantly the housekeeper fell down as if she were dead, and the blood streamed all over the ground. Fortunately, Raven, it's time for me to split. Aw, yes, go sleep. I'm sorry you have a headache. Go away. Get out of here. Kick. Okay, we'll see you another time. Thank you, Gage. So she's on the ground, playing dead. Simon then pretended to be seized with remorse at the sight of this dreadful catastrophe and cried out in a loud voice, "Unhappy wretch that I am, what have I done? Like a madman I have killed the woman who is the prop and stay of my old age. How could I ever go on with living without her?" He then seized a pipe, and when he had blown into it for some time, Nina sprang up, alive and well. Okay, but he didn't tell her to do that, but okay. The rogues were more amazed than ever. They forgot their anger, and buying the pipe for 200 gold pieces, they went joyfully home. Oh, dum-dums. Not long after this, one of them quarreled with his wife, and in his rage he thrust the knife into her breast, so that she fell dead on the ground. Oh, God, no. Then he took Simon's pipe and blew into it with all his might in the hopes of calling his wife back to life, but he blew in vain, for the poor soul was as dead as a doornail. Oh my gosh. Yikes, this frickin' story. When one of his comrades heard what had happened, he said, "You blockhead, you can't have done it properly. Let me have a try." "No, don't do this. No, oh my gosh." It's gonna come back to bite him in the end. Oh wow, this is like blocked for sex-based terms. It's so weird. But that's so weird. Bite him? That it's like sexist to bite him? It's so weird. Sorry. Do you like water? Hello. Pop, 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 little mouth. But this is gonna get sadder before the story ends, so I warn you, this paragraph, oh boy. Okay. You blockhead, you can't have done it properly. Just let me have a try. And with these words he seized his wife by the roots of her hair, cut her throat with a razor, and then took the pipe and blew into it with all his might, but he couldn't bring her back to life. The same thing happened to the third rogue, so that they were now all three without wives. Because yes, I have to get rid of another wife instead of just let me show you how to blow on the why. Oh my gosh. Although they all just assume that it's the item that does the trick, as opposed to, no, I spent a lot of time training my goat know how to do this thing or understand my voice. You just assuming that it would work would not work. Or this pipe works on this woman. It's not so much the pipe, it's the woman. Or why do you assume? Oh my gosh, but okay. Full of wrath, they ran to Simon's house, and, refusing to listen to a word of explanation or excuse, they seized the old man and put him into a sack, meaning to drown him in the neighboring river. On their way there, however, a sudden noise threw them into such a panic that they dropped the sack with Simon in it and ran for their lives. Oh no. The second guy should have just stabbed the first guy instead of killing. Yeah. Soon after, so they've all run away. Soon after this, a shepherd happened to pass by with his flock, and while he was slowly following the sheep, who paused here and there by the wayside to browse on the tender grass, he heard a pitiful voice wailing, "They insist on my taking her, and I don't want her, for I am too old, and I really can't have her." Interesting, weird riddle. The shepherd was much startled, for he couldn't make out where these words, which were repeated more than once, came from, and looked about him to the right and left. At last he perceived the sack in which Simon was hidden, and going up to it he opened it and discovered Simon repeating his dismal complaint. The shepherd asked him why he had been left there tied up in a sack. Simon replied that the king of the country had insisted on giving him one of his daughters as a wife, but that he had refused to honor because he was too old and frail. The simple-minded shepherd, who believed his story implicitly, asked him, "Do you think the king of the country would give his daughter to me?" "Yes, certainly, I know he would," answered Simon, "if you were tied up in this sack instead of me." Then, getting out of the sack, he tied the confiding shepherd up in it instead, and at his request fastened it securely and drove the sheep on himself. An hour scarcely passed when the 3 rogues returned to the place where they had left Simon in the sack. Without opening it, one of them seized it and threw it into the river, and so the poor shepherd was drowned instead of Mr. Simon. Yeah, facepalm would be a good one. You catch that, Fetster? 'Cause, that's how I'm feeling right now. Bonk. Okay. The 3 rogues, having wreaked their vengeance, set out for home. On their way they noticed a flock of sheep grazing not far from the road. They longed to steal a few of the lambs and approached the flock, and were more than startled to recognize Mr. Simon, who they had drowned in the river, as the shepherd who was looking after the sheep. They asked him how he had managed to get out of the river, to which he replied, "Get along with you. You are no better than silly donkeys without any sense. If you had only drowned me deeper water, I would have returned with 3 times as many sheep." When the 3 rogues heard this, they said to him, "Oh dear Mr. Simon, do us the favor to tie us up in sacks and throw us into the river, that we may give up our thieving ways and become the owners of flocks." "I am ready," answered Simon. I am ready," answered Simon, "to do what you please. There's nothing in the world I wouldn't do for you." So he took 3 strong sacks and put a man in each of them, and fastened them up so tightly that they couldn't get out, and then he threw them all into the river, and that was the end of the 3 rogues. But Simon returned home to his faithful Nina, rich in flocks and gold, and lived for many a year in health and happiness. Ooh, boy. Hi, Snowy Dazer. Wow. That poor shepherd that he tricked. I mean, it was his life or the shepherd's life. So I understand, but yikes. But okay. He he certainly got them back. The biter bit. The bitter bit? Like the person that was bit back? Maybe that's what it was. Oh, whatever. It worked. Wow. But the end. That was the biter bit, or however you say that, I guess. Zoinks. Zoinks is good. Yeah, Zoinks is appropriate for this one. Yeepers? That too. Alright. Yankees, GPs, Yankees. The bitten bit. Yeah, maybe bitten would be what they said, but they spelled it like biter bit, I guess. Oh boy. Alright. I have another story, and I think if we do a little bit of redeeming, we'll read that story and then we'll raid out to somebody. Shouldn't be too long to read, but we'll see. Ooh, that hasn't been redeemed in a while, Nani. Oh, I gotta pull that out. That's still here somewhere. Nope, not it. I'll find it. And the earrings, okay. Give me a second while I find those. Oh boy. You're just going through all of the redeems that you can to see what they sound like. I commend you for it. And chainmail. Alright. First, my chair farting a bunch as I move around. Okay. I see you've been growing pretty fast these past streams, Raven. Thank you. I'm very excited about it myself. I hope we keep going, but I'm pretty happy that we've gotten this far. I think what really helps is that I changed up what I do. And so next week I'll definitely be changing it back up again. I don't know if I'll just go back to what I've done or a fully new thing. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it at that many redeems. That's a whole heckin' bunch all at once. Well, it's not a whole bunch, but it's a good thwack of them. Aw, Bratty, did you have one? What did you have in mind? You really have been, TBH. I've been thinking for a while. I mean, yeah, shut up. Go to bed, Cage. No, it's okay. I can do one more, which just means we might be speedy. Maybe next stream? Okay. Alright. Try and redeem it fast, and I'll make sure I'll do it. Alright. But let's start with a beaded bracelet. Let's do that. Thank you for hug. Okay, here goes bracelet. Okay, we're changing over. Alright, I don't know how well you could hear that one. That was the difference between them. The earrings are decidedly quieter. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Oh, 4% sad. I'm a little sleepy, prepping for bed. Yeah. I saw the 93. Killing it. Cage got lots. The bot really, really does. It does. Okay. Is it hearing? Typing. That's it. Alright. Let's begin. Alright, that was typing. Hello, Ghost Rider. We had that, and now we have Chain and then Styx Russell. And then we'll do one more story, and that's the end of the stream as we raid out to somebody else. But here we go. Chain. Ooh. Okay.
I could easily fake the sound of a slinky with this. Oh my gosh.
Thank you for the follow, Kudai. Okay, that was Chain. And now it's the stick rustle. And then we move on to the next story. Okay. Alright, good night, Cage Nightwind. Thank you for joining us. Okay, just one more story that you're missing out on, Cage, but yeah. Good night. Take care. We'll see you next time. Thank you for everything. Oh, no, Mike. Cooperate. There you go. Alright. Where's the sticks? There's the sticks. Okay. This is gonna be something a lot like another story we've read, I bet. But we'll find out. Okay. Come on. There you go. Prince Fickle and Fair Helena. And very sticky sticks they were. Yes, they were very stick. One of them is on the ground now, but I'm not going to bother trying to figure out picking it up with everything in the way. Oh, I should double check something. Here we are. Oh, well, look at that. I don't have to worry about that. I was getting info on other things that I could have been needing to do, but I did not have to. I'm not needed. Okay. Prince Pickle. That's fair. Alright, here is the story. After my distraction. Sorry. Alright. Last story of the night. There was once upon a time a beautiful girl called Helena. Her own mother had died when she was quite a child, and her stepmother was as cruel and unkind to her as she could be. Oh, well, this here is a classic princess, is what we've got. Classic fairy tale story so far. Helena did all she could to gain her love and performed the heavy work given to her as cheerfully and well, but her stepmother's heart wasn't in the least touched. The more the poor girl did, the more she asked her to do. One day she gave Helena 12 pounds of mixed feathers and bade her separate them all before evening, threatening her with heavy punishment if she failed to do so. The poor child sat down to her task with her eyes so full of tears that she could hardly see to begin. And when she had made one little heap of feathers, she sighed so deeply that they all blew apart again. Oh no. Bony Shark, ooh, fun name, welcome. And so it went on, and the poor girl grew more and more miserable. She bowed her head in her hands and cried, "Is there no one under heaven who will take pity on me?" Suddenly a soft voice replied, "Be comforted, my child, I have come to help you." Terrified to death, Helena looked up and saw a fairy standing in front of her, who asked her in the kindest way possible, "Why are you crying, my dear?" Helena, who for long had heard no friendly voice, confided her sad tale of woe to the fairy, and told her that the new task she had been given to do was told her what the new task was, and how she despaired of ever accomplishing it. "Don't worry yourself about it any more," said the kind fairy. "Lie down and go to sleep, and I'll see that your work is done all right." So Helena lay down, and when she awoke all the feathers were sorted into little bundles, but when she turned to thank the good fairy, she had vanished. In the evening her stepmother returned, and was much amazed to find Helena sitting quietly with her work all finished before her. She praised her diligence, but at the same time racked her brain as to what harder tasks she could set her to do. The next day she told Helena to empty a pond near the house with a spoon which was full of holes. Helena set to work at once, but she very soon found that what her stepmother had told her to do was an impossibility. She didn't know when she was told. Oh, poor girl. She hasn't got enough brains either, I guess. Full of despair and misery, she was in the act of throwing the spoon away, when suddenly the kind fairy stood before her again and asked her why she was so unhappy. When Helena told her of her stepmother's new demand, she said, "Trust me and I will do your task for you. Lie down and have a sleep in the meantime." Helena was comforted and lay down, and before you would have believed it possible, the fairy roused her gently and told her the pond was empty. Full of joy and gratitude, Helena hurried to her stepmother, hoping that now, at last, her heart would be softened toward her. But the wicked woman was furious at the frustration of her own evil designs, and only thought of what harder things she could set the girl to do. The next morning she ordered her to build before evening a beautiful castle, and to furnish it from garret to basement. Helena had sat down on the rocks, which had been pointed out to her as the site of the castle, feeling very depressed, but at the same time with the lurking hope that the fairy would come once more to her aid. And so it turned out. The fairy appeared, promised to build a castle, and told Helena to lie down and go to sleep in the meantime. At the word of the fairy, the rocks and stones rose and built themselves into a beautiful castle, and before sunset it was all furnished inside and left nothing to be desired. You may think how grateful Helena was when she awoke and found her task all finished. But her stepmother was anything but pleased, and went through the whole castle from top to bottom to see that if she couldn't find some fault for which she could punish Helena. At last she went down into one of the cellars, but it was so dark that she fell down the steep stairs and was killed on the spot. Oh, well, all right. Bye, stepmom. So Helena was now mistress of the beautiful castle, and lived there in peace and happiness. And soon the noise of her beauty spread abroad, and many wooers came to try and gain her hand. Yeah, exactly, Bratty. Like it's just, and a sharp left turn. What? Oh. Well, okay. That solves that issue, I guess. We don't always have a bunch of death in these, I didn't think, but here we are. As soon as someone said, "Oh, not death again," only death. just some stairs. Oops. Okay. Among them, the suitors, came one Prince Fickle by name, who very quickly won the love of fair Helena, and I'm sure he will actually be very fickle, and that's a whole thing. One day, as they were sitting happily together under a lime tree in front of the castle, Prince Fickle broke the sad news to Helena that he must return to his parents to get their consent to his marriage. Oh, not what I expected. He promised faithfully to come back to her as soon as he could, and begged her to await his return under the lime tree where they had spent so many happy hours. Helena kissed him tenderly at parting on his left cheek, and begged him not to let anyone else kiss him there while they were parted, and she promised to sit and wait for him under the lime tree, for she never doubted that the prince would be faithful to her, and would return as quickly as he could. Well, babe, you were so specific about the left cheek that I'm gonna guess that's gonna be a problem. Okay. And so she sat for 3 days and 3 nights under the tree without moving. Okay. But when her lover never returned, she grew very unhappy and determined to set out to look for him. Sorry. Yeah, it's about time to do that, friend, yeah. She took as many of her jewels as she could carry, and 3 of her most beautiful dresses, one embroidered with stars, one with moons, and the third with suns, all of pure gold. Far and wide she wandered through the world, but nowhere did she find any trace of her bridegroom. At last she gave up the search in despair. She could not bear to return to her own castle where she had been so happy with her lover, but determined rather to endure her loneliness and desolation in a strange land. She took a place as a herd girl with a peasant, and buried her jewels and beautiful dresses in a safe and hidden spot. Every day she drove the cattle to pasture, and all the time she thought of nothing but her faithless bridegroom. She was very devoted to a certain little calf in the herd, and made a great pet of it. Ooh, I found the stick with my foot. Pet of it. Feeding it out of her own hands. She taught it to kneel before her, and then she whispered in its ear, "Kneel, little calf, kneel. Be faithful and leal, not like Prince Fickle, who once upon a time left his fair Helena under the lime. Cute little song there. After some years passed in this way, she heard that the daughter of the king of the country she was living in was going to marry a prince called Fickle. Everybody rejoiced at the news except poor Helena, to whom it was a fearful blow, for at the bottom of her heart she had always believed her lover to be true. Well, sorry to break it to you. It's a nope on that. Now it chanced that the way to the capital led right past the village where Helena was, and often when she was leading her cattle forth to the meadows, Prince Fickle rode past her, without ever noticing the poor herd girl, so engrossed was he in his thoughts of his new bride. Then it occurred to Helena to put his heart to the test and to see if it weren't possible to recall herself to him. So one day, as Prince Fickle rode by, she said to her little calf, "Kneel, little calf, kneel, be faithful and leal, not like Prince Fickle, who once on a time left his poor Helena under the lime." When Prince Fickle heard her voice, it seemed to him to remind him of something, but of what he couldn't remember, so I guess he couldn't. Oh, yeah, for he hadn't heard the words distinctly, just kind of the vague tone, as Helena had only spoken them very low and with a shaky voice. Helena herself had been far too moved to let her see what impression her words had made on the prince. Oh, she was too nervous. And when she looked round, he was already far away. But she noticed how slowly he was riding, and how deeply he sunk he was in thought, so she didn't quite give herself up as lost. In honor of the approaching wedding, a feast lasting many nights was to be given in the capital. Helena placed all her hopes on this, and determined to go to the feast, and there to seek out her bridegroom. Morning, Battlechain. When evening grew near, she stole out of the peasant's cottage secretly, and going to her hiding place, she put on her dress embroidered with the gold suns, and all her jewels, and loosed her beautiful golden hair, which up to now she had always worn under a kerchief, and, adorned thus, she set out for the town. When she entered the ballroom, all eyes were on her, and everyone marveled at her beauty, but no one knew who she was. Prince Fickle, too, was quite dazzled by the charms of the beautiful maiden, and never guessed that she had once been his own lady love. He never left her side all night, and it was with great difficulty that Helena escaped from him in the crowd when it was time to return home. Prince Fickle searched for her everywhere, and longed eagerly for the next night when the beautiful lady had promised to come again. The following evening the fair Helena started early for the feast. This time she wore her dress embroidered with silver moons, and in her hair she placed a silver crescent. Prince Fickle was enchanted to see her again, and she seemed to him even more beautiful than she had been the night before. He never left her side and refused to dance with anyone else. He begged her to tell him who she was, but this she refused to do. Then he implored her to return the next evening, and this she promised him she would. Gotta prep for work? Oh, sad. But thanks for dropping in while you could. We're gonna wrap up the stream pretty soon anyway. On the third evening, Prince Fickle was so impatient to see his fair enchantress again that he arrived at the feast hours before it began and never took his eyes from the door. At last Helena arrived in a dress all covered with gold and silver stars, and with a girdle of stars round her waist and a band of stars in her hair. Prince Fickle was more in love with her than ever, and begged her once again to tell him her name. Then Helena kissed him silently on the left cheek, and in one moment Prince Fickle recognized his old love. Full of remorse and sorrow, he begged for her forgiveness, and Helena, only too pleased to have gotten him back again, did not, you may be sure, keep him waiting very long for her pardon, and so they were married and returned to Helena's castle, where they are no doubt still sitting happily together under the lime tree. The end. A couple problems with that. Why did he not recognize you. Oh my gosh. It feels like this is like kind of a precursor to Cinderella, where it was like he could not recognize her. It took 3 days at the ball, which some Cinderella stories have that included too. And, she had the stepmother that eventually she was no longer dealing with, but usually that waits to the end of the story. Very interesting, just generally. Funky story. But, alright, that is the end of Prince Fickle and Fair Helena. So now I'm going to say good night, folks, but who are we raiding off to? Because we are doing that. Memory and logic seem to be weak points of most fairy tale characters. Yes, it do seem to be that way. Oh, bending silver spoons. Okay, then that's where we'll head out. Alright, I'll put this up. Silver spoons, there you go. You guys on the same page, look at you. So yes, I'll be streaming again tomorrow. It's looking like next week I might not be streaming so much. I'm sorry about that. But here we go. That's them. I'll be doing origami in the first one and the fairy tales again in the last one, as we just have done. And I shouldn't have any problem doing everything this week. But yeah, next week it's looking like I'm gonna do maybe half the streams that I was originally planning. And I apologize in advance, but other pieces of life come up. And I'll be back with you guys as much as I can. So thank you for being here, and we'll pop right on over to... Hey, it looks like she got her model from the same person I did. We'll head right over to Bending Silver Spoons now. Here we go. Get the raid messages ready. Where's that? I gotta find it again. Give me the freaking... There we go. Okay. Alright. Let's go! And we're going. And we're going. And... Aw. I didn't get the frog message. Okay. Well, that's it for streaming.